Hi, everyone. This is Dianne Kaler, Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute, back again for another edition of the NTI PodTalk. This is the platform where we talk to people who are interested in nutrition, who are part of the NTI community, as well as outside of the NTI community, about nutrition and health, because those things are things that are very important to us. So today I am thrilled to have someone who's not in the immediate NTI community, but who we certainly talk about a lot here at NTI, and that is Dr. Tracy McCubbin. And so I'm gonna let Dr. Tracy kind of tell us a little bit about herself. But first, I just want to welcome you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your, what I know to be a very busy day, to do this. And we appreciate that you're doing that for us. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Diane. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I think just to kind of begin and lay the foundation of what we're going to talk about today, if you could talk about your educational background, kind of your experience in the mainstream medical field, and then talk a little bit about what made you want to go in a more functional medicine direction.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm traditional, allopathic medicine trained. I went to 4 years of medical school. My initial residency was in emergency medicine. I grew up in Kentucky, and I moved here to do my 4-year residency at Denver Health and Hospitals, what we called DG back then, and then took a job here at St. Joseph Hospital with Kaiser Permanente, and had various roles there. Clinical, I was in charge of the ED residents. I did clinical research. I was assistant medical director. I was in charge of our CME and quality assurance. So I had, varying roles. And I think one of the more important ones, one of my things that I'm proudest of before I retired was I opened the Centers for Complementary Medicine there at Kaiser. So I was the founder and the medical director, and ultimately worked clinically in those centers. I was fortunate enough to meet Dr. Andrew Weil at Canyon Ranch at a health spa, which you all might know in Phoenix. He was affiliated there back in the day, and I did a few lectures with him. And then I did a few classes and a few seminars, coursework with him, and ultimately, he influenced me to start the Centers for Complementary Medicine at Kaiser. We had massage, chiropractic, acupuncture, and I got a research grant to implement John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction program. And once we got to 4 locations and were successful, I went to the board and asked if I could go do Dr. Weil's fellowship in integrative medicine at the University of Arizona, and they allowed me to do so, released me to do so. And so I was fortunate to have Dr. Weil as a faculty advisor. So integrative medicine first, I guess is what I would say. And once I graduated from the program in 2011, I like to say that I graduated from the emergency department and had my clinical integrative medicine practice within the Centers for Complementary Medicine. So I've been doing about 10 years. And in and around there, maybe 4 to 5 years later, I went on and did the functional medicine, their modules and their certification. Now, integrative medicine is a boarded specialty. It became a boarded specialty for physicians in 2015, and I took that first set of boards. So I'm boarded in integrative medicine. Functional medicine is a kind of a certification. They haven't quite gotten to the board level yet.
And so is the functional medicine, is that through the IFM?
Yes, Institute for Functional Medicine. Yeah. That's where I trained.
Okay, so that's actually in itself, that's really interesting that there is 2 different things. Integrative medicine and functional medicine.
Yes, I'd say 2 pillars. They're very similar. what functional medicine would say that they differentiate themselves, that they're more, they more function in the world of nutrition. They have a heavier emphasis on nutrition, whereas they would probably say integrative medicine uses a lot of allied health professionals. So integrative medicine brings in Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine. They utilize acupuncture and, well, I guess both do mindfulness. I think they're very similar, but I think Jeffrey Bland, who's sort of the father of functional medicine, and Andrew Weil, who's the father of integrative medicine, they're both very powerful maybe, and don't necessarily want to come together.
Gotcha.
Spice and politics there, I would say.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never really thought about that there are sort of these two different things, two different, sort of heads, leaders, whatever, founding fathers of, so I just never thought of that. So that's great. I love that you are able to talk about the differences between them. So, and I forgot to mention that your business is called Radiance Functional Medicine. So you certainly are embracing the whole functional medicine aspect in your practice. You're no longer at Kaiser. You're on your own private
practice. My full early retirement. Yeah, after 27 years of working there.
Yeah. So, were there like things that you were unable to do in your conventional medicine paradigm that caused you to actually want to leave that environment and open your own functional medicine practice that specifically, emphasizes the fact that you are a functional medicine practitioner?
Yes, I would say Kaiser Permanente was still very much under the traditional allopathic model. And even though, I could have hour-long visits, and it was actually the interesting thing about those clinics was it was a venture fee-for-service business within a traditional HMO setting. And it was pretty much the only one that made it. A number of them had popped up over the years, but they had kind of failed, you know what I mean, or weren't really sustainable. And this one was sustainable for sure, a clinic as a whole. But I was not able to get some of the laboratory testing and not maybe able to make some of the recommendations that I might have wanted to make. And I thought, I was still young enough to be able to go out and open my own practice. You're going to get older and tired if I wait too much longer. Yeah. So I thought if I'm going to do it, I'm going to jump now. And and I think we opened the mindset a lot. And I think that's why Dr. Weil was my faculty advisor at the University of Arizona, not because it was me, Tracy McCubbin, but because I had the opportunity to influence 1,000 physicians, in the Kaiser Permanente system in Colorado. I presented our model to a number of different regions, but none had really been able to get as far kind of as we had in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. And is that facility at Kaiser, is that still open? Is that still a going thing?
They do not have integrative medicine anymore. They don't have, and I would say when I got my clinical integrative medicine practice, it was about 6 months before I searched out and found Sherry Inkvest, who is one of your graduates. I can tell the story of how that came about if you're interested, but and Sherry and I, saw patients clinically. And then we also taught a healthy cooking class every Thursday evening for, over 3 years, because we realized that we would tell people to eat fruits and vegetables, but they really had no idea how to do that. So we're like, we need to give people the skills to actually be able to do that. So it was super fun.
Yeah.
So there's no nutrition or integrative medicine currently there now, but they still do chiropractic and acupuncture and massage. And in the mindfulness space, the mindfulness classes have been so successful that they've gone up to a regional to administration level. It just blew up. I was able to publish 2 papers out of that from that research grant. And it was so convincing that we went from having 4 classes a year to having like 14.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I always think it's really, inspiring and gives me hope when I see that very traditional mainstream medical practices are at least willing to be open to some of these other modalities that I think can be very beneficial.
Absolutely.
That are in addition to usually and on top of, medication and surgery and sort of the typical things that you think about conventional medicine, but the fact that they're willing to be open to adding these things and to be, sort of tolerant of recognizing that there are benefits to having this broader integrative functional whatever aspect to give people more control over their own health, because I think that's part of what is so such a drawback for many people in the conventional medical paradigm, that they don't feel like they have a lot of control over their own health. They kind of give everything over to the doctor, and they want to be able to take responsibility for some of those things. And these integrative things are ways that they can do that and participate in that for themselves, and not having someone dictate to them, do this, do this, do this. So I think that's beneficial.
I agree. Well, what I had found, when I was going through the data is, so many of the patients were doing this anyway. It just, the traditional physicians, their primary care docs were not really aware of it. Do you know what I mean? So by bringing it in-house, I felt like we could do it better, and it could truly be incorporated into, the patient's medical care. And so that was it took 3 years of board presentations and a lot of politicking for me to be able to get that first one open. It was not easy. Yeah. Not an easy thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was good for the company, good for the patients, I think.
Yeah. So, okay. So you have your own practice now. How long has your practice been open?
3 years. We'll really say 2 years because of COVID. It's not the best time to open a brand new business, right? But 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, good. So do you have a particular specialty, a focus of practice that you have, in your work with your patients?
Yeah, I would say, who we love to help are patients that traditional Western medicine, I hate to say has failed, but sort of has failed, that they've gone, maybe the complaints have not really been heard, or they've kind of been overlooked. And I don't think it's the traditional allopathic, physician's fault necessarily. I think they don't necessarily know how to connect the dots. And so much of Western medicine is sort of divvied out. There's, a number of different kind of specialists involved, and maybe nobody sees, where functional medicine or integrative medicine is going to go upstream and try to find the root cause of what's going on and sees how all these symptoms are connected together. So we treat digestive disorders, a lot of autoimmune conditions, some chronic pain. Healthy aging is a big one. But I'd say where we probably really shine is hormone balancing. And primarily that's perimenopause, menopause, but we also do infertility and polycystic ovarian syndrome and, some of the conditions that men see too. We have some couples patients that are doing infertility with us together, and we've had very good success there. So I'd say that's maybe where we shine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is pretty much in alignment with, the things that people go to their doctor to and the doctor for, and there just isn't this really good fit, like they just haven't figured out how to give a broader platform for these patients to actually find benefit. And I think autoimmune is a big one, and hormone balance, because it's like, well, hormone balance, that's, you just give hormones, right?
Oh no, so
you
much
just give
more
testosterone,
yeah.
Just give estrogen, and it's like, well, that's not really balance. That's throwing a hormone into the mix that you don't really understand how it's going to influence the entire balance of
The whole picture.
the system. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we chose, I mean, I guess this makes me think of two things. You know, the reason that we chose Radiance Functional Medicine is because I saw a lot of patients in my practice at Kaiser Permanente where, you know, these 40, 45, 50-year-old women whose, you know, light, inner flame, their light was kind of flickering almost out, if not completely out. And, you know, the whole idea was to try to reignite that flame and kind of get it going again. And, you know, one of the biggest things was helping, they had fallen off the list of things to do, you know, the proverbial list of things to do. They're growing a career, growing a family and a husband and kids, and, you know, just not taking any time to do those self-care things for themselves. And a lot of what I was doing was giving them permission to get back on the list of things to do, you know, and helping them to get their light to come back. And I would say another thing it made me think of is, you know, why, you know, did I go? So I think Western medicine does acute care so very well.
Yeah.
So emergency medicine was sort of a great career choice for me at 26. But toward the end of, you know, my career in emergency medicine, I was seeing a lot of decompensated chronic illnesses that we didn't really have anything to offer these folks, you know, other than muscle relaxants and pain pills and, you know, things that don't kind of really work. And I started thinking there's got to be a better way to do this. You know, there's got to be something better for these folks. And that I think was one reason I think that the fact that I met Dr. Weil and, you know, kind of really believed in a lot of the things that he was saying. And then also realizing that, you know, at a certain point, I wasn't taking the best care of myself. And my problem list and my medication list was looking a lot like that of every other, you know, 40 something that came into the emergency room. I'm like, okay, something's got to change. You know, there's something going on in the environment. There's something about, you know, lifestyle that is causing this to happen. And so that's kind of what made me pursue sort of a different way.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's so common, you know, that's so common for students who come here. They have a personal experience, and it could be themselves, it could be a family member where they realize, you know, they have this sudden awakening that, well, what you eat really does matter.
Yes.
And maybe I could do something, you know, it may not be the thing that changes everything in your health condition or your, you know, whatever you're trying to do in your wellness goals. But it certainly is a major player. And they start to make dietary changes. They do some investigation of, you know, best foods for whatever. And, you know, they start on this very simplistic path, and they develop this sort of passion to want to learn more. And then as they learn more, they want to tell everybody
about it,
right? Like, you would not
shout it from the rooftops.
And then suddenly it starts to dawn on them that they can turn this into a career. So and I think the demand is really high. I think people are you know, frustrated with the fact that they they're tired and they're sick of being tired. You know, that's kind of a cliche saying, but I think it's so common. I mean, I know when I had my own moment, you know, I went to my very traditionally trained, conventionally trained Western medical doctor, and you know, and I was 38 years old, and he said, well, you're getting older, and this is just the natural thing that happens when you get older. And I was like,
38?
I don't really believe that, you know, the fact that I'm getting older is what's causing me to have some of the health conditions that I was going for. And then, of course, I happened to mention that I was doing some reading, and he told me, don't do any reading, just do what I tell you to do. And that was a big tipping point for me. Like, okay, I'm going to do more reading, in fact, and more learning for myself. So yeah. All right. Well, anyways, back to your business. So you currently employ 2 NTI grads and 1 NTI student. So, you know, we are so happy to hear that our students and our graduates are going out and working in these businesses, whatever kind of business it can be, and yours is a functional medicine practice, and using what they learned here to go out and share with others in that way. So can you talk about like why did you hire our NTI grads, our NTI student? Like what is it about those students coming from our school that prompted you to want to hire them?
So I guess we'll go back to my initial clinical integrative medicine practice when I met Sherry. So I think there's two prongs to that. Kaiser Permanente, being a traditional medical system, had really wanted me to hire a dietitian. And there had been some dietitians on the Complementary Alternative Medicine Advisory Board, which was the group that's kind of, well, actually, I have to give credit to Elsa Swires, put together before she retired, that I took over, that helped us kind of influence the organization to open those clinics. But I had picked like 6 kind of case scenarios when I was doing the interviews, and like, tell me, what kind of recommendations you would make for this condition, an autoimmune, an Asperger's, a weight loss, a number of different ones. And the answers just did not measure up to what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And then I happened upon Sherry, who, when I gave her, we were spot on, exactly what I thought was exactly what she thought. And we just clicked. And I said to my partner in the health plan side, and then, ultimately to my executive medical director, like, I have to have a nutritionist like that. You know what I mean? There's a distinction, there's a difference. And it came back up a couple of times, because it's not really the traditional way for them, but it really was the way to go. And I still think is the way to go, obviously. So that's one thing, to separate the two. And then in terms of NTI, I think, you all really teach the pathophysiology. So there's a lot of understanding of the science, the anatomy, the physiology, again, just the pathophysiology of any said condition, where, rather than just recommending this style of eating, I think they really understand why they're recommending that style of eating. I think it's a higher level of education. And then I love the fact that, there's the option to be there in person. I mean, there's, a number of online courses, I guess, that are, scattered around there from my searching. And I think the best way to create kind of long lasting learning, gel it in, is really to be in person. I'm still a little bit old school that way, but if you look at research studies, it kind of supports that. And I think the energy that you get from your fellow classmates and the one-on-one interaction with the, professors or the teachers, instructors, I think is incredibly beneficial. It's a 360 experience, that you just don't get online.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah, definitely. So we definitely teach from a very science-based perspective. So we talk about how the foundation of our learning is very science-based. We teach anatomy and physiology, biochemistry. We teach the chemistry of nutrients, how they interact with human biochemistry. And then we layer on top of that very much a holistic approach to looking at the human body as a whole, and how things affecting one body system are going to affect another body system, and looking at, the gut brain connection, the gut hormone connection. So we look at these very look at these from a very holistic approach. And then we also say that not only do we teach the what to do, but we teach the why behind it, because it's really easy to say, oh, you have this problem or whatever, you have this, eat this or take this. But if you don't really understand the depth of understanding why that recommendation is being made, first of all, you don't have a lot of credibility and sort of inner knowledge and this depth of knowledge that actually substantiates your recommendation of what to do. But then also, if you can explain the why to your client, or if you're, working with a medical practitioner, to the patients, if you can explain that, that just heightens the credibility of the information, but also heightens the willingness of the person to actually do what you're recommending. Like, we can say everything we want, but if they don't actually believe that you know what you're talking about, they're not going to do it, right? Or at least it's going to be a big hesitation on their part to do what you're recommending. So those are things that we continuously talk about, and update our curriculum to make sure that we are giving really good foundational why this needs to be done. And then also, to your point as well, we don't teach a cookie cutter approach. So we always say that we want to teach how to utilize the client's biochemical individuality, their own thing, where they are, what they're doing, all the things that influence their food choices, and make a plan with them in partnership that's going to be personalized for them. And so hopefully you see that in our grads and our students, that ability to do that personalization based on the patient's needs that they're working with in your practice. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think the whole compliance thing, I think, is really important. How, all of us, I think, in this field are a little bit of a health coach,
yeah.
Helping people, kind of move along in that way. And I'm a big believer, my initial intake visit is about 2 hours, and I spend probably 20 minutes on nutrition, which probably barely scratches the surface. They do fill out a diet journal with the intake paperwork, and I can, make some suggestions. But I do think people have to hear things, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 times before they're going to change behavior. It seems like a good idea, to do that. And, having the support of the nutritionists in my practice is very helpful to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so I would imagine, I would imagine that you have a community of other physicians who are interested in, practicing in a more functional way, potentially, if not going all the way to getting certified as a functional medicine practitioner, but practicing in a more functional way, more holistic approach. Are there things that you would say to those other doctors and potentially other types of practitioners about the benefits of having a trained nutrition therapist working in your office?
Oh, goodness. I would say, kind of like Nike says, just do it. I think food is, food and nutrition is just a real cornerstone of so many of the patients that I see of their problems. We just can make so much benefit by, and I think there's so much out there in social media that is kind of hooey, you know what I mean, to follow this or follow that or follow that. And sometimes people are coming in doing really strange stuff. I mean, I find, almost exclusively my menopausal women are not getting enough protein and often enough calories, to kind of keep them going, and not really understanding kind of what that does to the body. Just such misinformation, as far back as the, 70s and 80s about, I mean, right. Maybe I shouldn't tell that story, but I did have a conversation with somebody in the prevention department at a big group meeting. But a calorie is a calorie is a calorie, and I'm thinking, wait, you're telling me sort of salmon and broccoli and some whole grain brown rice is the same as a Starbucks Frappuccino? Like, right. I don't think they're the same amount of calories, but they're not equal. Do you know what I mean? This is not. This is crazy talk. In terms of, there is, I was very disheartened. I'd seen a number of Crohn's, newly diagnosed Crohn's and ulcerative colitis patients whose, gastroenterologist told them that it didn't really matter what they ate.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and so I'm very proud. There's one GI group in town who refers a number of patients to me, and they have hired a dietitian and nutritionist on their staff. So I think it, slowly we're making progress. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, that's very good to hear that there is someone out there who knows, and they're referring people to your office, because, oh my gosh, it's particularly for for IBD, for Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, for a doctor to say what you eat doesn't matter. But it happens in a lot of different areas. What you eat, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you eat. There's no influence, and it just drives me crazy, because everything is influenced by what you eat. So.
What you eat, yeah, what you eat, and then the health of your gut, right? To make sure you can digest and absorb, all the nutrients from, all the good things that hopefully, you're eating.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and also I'll just put another plug that for a medical practitioner, their focus, their priority, their job, even a functional medicine practitioner is not only for nutrition. You still have to practice medicine,
right?
And that is your focus. So to have a nutrition therapist on your staff working with your patients, that sort of offloads some of your time and the need for you to be so involved with your patients talking about food and nutrition, so that you can focus on the things that have to do with the medicine, the practice of medicine. So
yeah, I thought, and a lot of times a traditional allopathic physician, they have 15-minute appointments. They just can't, there's no time to cover that. And I think having a nutritionist on the team is crucial. We shared a quote on our social media just in the last week or 2 weeks maybe, but I really liked it because I thought it really summed it up. And it said, the food industry feeds us and pays no attention to health, and the healthcare industry heals us but pays no attention to food. That is traditionally how things have gone. I think we're shifting that, slowly but surely. But it's traditionally that's how it's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great saying. I love that. Well, so moving a little bit away from your practice and into your personal life, what kind of foods or holistically minded things do you incorporate into your own life for your own health?
Well, let's see. So the first one I'll say is mindfulness. I talk to all my patients about mindfulness. I think the data is mostly around meditation in the traditional Western medical literature about prolonging the length of our telomeres and prolonging our life and prolonging a disease-free life, compression of morbidity. So having a little bit of mindfulness, 5 minutes, daily is kind of the important part. I was able to get that grant for John Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based MBSR program, and we were able to study our outcomes a year after the patients did the 1-year follow-up. So look at people, 1 year before they took the class and kind of 1 year after they completed the class and the follow-up. So multiple spaces in time, and just the health benefits were vast. And I've been a big believer since then. I think there's a lot of different ways to get there. I think you can, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, but having some form of mindfulness in your day. And so I try to practice what I preach. And then I think the other thing is just sneak in, one more vegetable. And if it can be a cruciferous vegetable, all the better. We do a lot more cooking at home and, food preparation at home rather than doing any sort of fast food or carryouts or things like that. And yeah, I think you can, it's hard, the whole idea that we're growing in sort of dirt now instead of growing in soil. When I grew up, it was 3 to 4 servings a day was all you needed. And now it's more like 7 to 9. And that's hard for even the healthiest eaters to get, including me. So that, and probably taking a good quality multivitamin, multimineral to kind of fill in the gaps is probably I would say. I've always been a big exerciser. I played field hockey in high school and college. So exercise is another piece of that puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm completely in alignment with you. I hadn't been for a long time, practicing meditation, mindfulness. I talked about it, but I never really did it for myself, as sometimes happens. And so, I did finally start to implement a daily practice, concerted time that I set aside to do it, because if I didn't do that, then it wouldn't happen. And same thing, I just think that movement for me is really helpful. So I just movement is has nutritional value. It's not nutrients, it's not vitamins and minerals, but it still has nutritional value for the body. So completely in alignment with you. I really like doing movement that makes my body, or that challenges my body to do things that are different. So I'm always trying to find different ways to move.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you run every single day, you're working the muscles and the joints that are involved in running, but you're not working the joints and muscles that are involved in doing other things. So kind of that longevity and healthy aging, I'm always trying to challenge myself to find new forms of movement, different things. A couple of weeks ago, I went and did axe throwing. So that was really good movement for the shoulders, that I don't get a lot of work on. So always trying to find new things and novel things. So.
Oh, how fun. Well, that's also, as we get older, new circuitry, wiring in the brain, learning something new also is one of the things that prevents cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, whatever you want to, whatever level, whatever version of it we're talking about. But continuing to learn new things. So that's you get 2 stars for that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. The first time you throw it, it's pretty intimidating, because you're like, I have a deadly weapon here. It's a little intimidating, but then after you get the hang of it, it's pretty good. I could hit the target, the bullseye on the target pretty regularly after I got used to it. So it's pretty fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
My new one this year, my new one in the last year was I started Pilates. I started doing some Pilates. Yeah. So I agree with you. I try to mix it up too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. And I've really enjoyed talking to you, but I don't want to take up a whole lot more of your time. So as we bring it to a close, do you want to talk about how people find out more about you? What's your website?
Oh yeah, come check us out, please. You can search Radiance Functional Medicine on all platforms and we'll come up. Shelby tells me we're the only one. Our website is radiancefunctionalmedicine.com. Our handle on Instagram is @radiancefunctionalmedicine. And on Facebook, it's @radiancefm.
Great. Nice. Well, I'm sure people will check you out, because that is definitely something that people are always looking for, is where can they find more holistic functional medicine practitioners. So
yeah, and you can call our numbers 303-333-1668. Shelby, soon to be NTI grad, right? She's coming up here like in May or June, I think. But she can tell you all about it.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Diane. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.